All right. So I'm Mike McCarry. I'm here with Josh Boggs, who's my pitching coach at Lackawanna College. We are a 2-year institution in the middle of Scranton, top 25 D2 JUCO. We went to the World Series in 2019. And we think it would be beneficial if we shared what we would call basically office talk, which is essentially we bounce ideas off each other in a safe setting where both of our ideas can be questioned back and forth. We kind of go around in a circle. It's not that uncommon for us to kind of look at each other and go, I don't know. We'll look it up or we'll figure it out later down the line. And we just want to approach some specific topics about stuff that we identify in a program as what we do, and just kind of bounce it back and forth in a free-flowing conversation without a script. The idea would be that as we get through a couple of these, maybe we've been educational in some way about Lackawanna or the recruiting process. We could also invite another coach in here to bounce ideas off between the two of us or just one of us as we kind of go forward. So let's see just kind of how organically it's going to grow, see what we can do while we are totally bored, locked down in our house and not able to go watch real baseball players. So this is Josh Boggs. To my left, Josh, say hi.
Hi.
Josh is the pitching coach and does a fantastic job for me. So the idea is today we want to discuss the differences between what we need to recruit, what preferentially we're looking to recruit, and what attributes we are very secure in saying we can help develop while they're in with us. I think differentiating between those two things is really important because we look at the entire landscape of who's out there, who we can introduce into our program. And we've got to basically decide what are the traits that they got to come in with and what are the traits we can help them obtain while they're in our program. And we're going to talk specifically about the pitching side today because Josh is the pitching coach, naturally. So I think let's just start it off with the big, easy one. I think we're looking for command. I think how we define command is very specific in the big pizza pie of what makes up command. But I think when it comes down to it, we feel pretty good we can develop velocity. We're not as confident that we can help a guy overcome the command hump in his college career.
At least not a dramatic, major command issue.
Okay.
The guy, it's really hard to take the dude who can't hit the broadside of a barn in high school and get him to expect to throw strikes in college.
Yeah,
right. I mean, there's the general rule is if you throw strikes in high school, you throw strikes in college, you throw strikes in pro ball, and vice versa. I mean, we see it in other sports. In basketball, if you can shoot in high school, you can shoot in college, you can shoot in the pros. Yeah. If you can't shoot in high school, you can't shoot in college, you can't shoot in the pros, right?
It's pretty easy to extrapolate that out. Yeah.
It's one of those skills that by and large, and guys tend to, over the arc of their careers from high school through pro ball, guys at 36, 37, 38 years old are still getting better at command. Just because the more you throw, the better you're going to get at it.
There's a mastery in the volume of throws, essentially.
Right. But we feel like we're pretty good at taking 82, 84 to 86, 88 or 90, 92, depending on overall physical development and whatnot. But it's a lot harder to take the guy who just never threw the ball over the plate in his life and get him to start doing it at 18, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah. And I think how we define command and how we recruit command is different than just like, hey, I can throw a bullpen and throw 90% strikes or 90% even hit spots. Command is it's an ability to stand on the mound and execute a plan. It's us identifying what you do well and being able to do that well consistently. Maybe it's an arm side fastball or it's a breaking ball or something. You've got command and mastery over that pitch. If you've thrown like 8 high school innings and gave up 17 hits, that's not command. No, that's throwing the ball down the middle of the plate. And I'd say even the kids I define on our roster as not having great command can throw the ball down the middle of the plate. That's half the problem. It's walk, 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 double. It's being able to get the ball to spots that are preferential to the pitcher instead of the hitter. And I think that's hard to describe to people.
And we do a decent job improving command, air quotes, in a way of just avoiding the pitches they shouldn't be throwing to begin with.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden we see a pen 3 pens in and he hasn't thrown a glove side changeup for a strike, well, maybe we just never call a glove side changeup anymore.
Yeah.
And command's going to improve because the 1-1 changeup he's trying to throw glove side doesn't get called anymore.
Exactly.
And now maybe he throws it on the arm side and he gets the ground ball, or he doesn't fall behind in as many counts and he's not walking as many dudes just because we got rid of a pitch he shouldn't be throwing to begin with.
Couldn't be throwing. And I think like one of the most common things that I see kids show up with is they can't get the fastball to the glove side. I think it's almost an epidemic that they can't. almost everything yips back to the arm side or rolls back. And what they think is fastball away to a right-hander is really fastball over the fat part of the plate at belt high. It's really hard to pitch at a high level if you can't get the fastball to both sides of the plate. But we can adjust early on because, granted, on day 15, when a guy's in our program as a freshman, he's probably going to be playing a Division I team. You're going to be out there, and I'm going to say get 6 outs. We're playing 36 innings this weekend because we do have that benefit of playing 20 to 25 games during the fall against 4-year schools and then 56 games during the spring. We're going to throw you out there. It might be 2-0, you're throwing fastball in as opposed to away because I know you can't get it out there. Yeah. And then we can kind of develop off that. We can try and set you up for success by making it more simple to a degree. Right. But I've had zero success taking a kid who can't throw strikes and teaching them to. That's not a thing.
At least not in the short time frame that we have with a player. Right. And because we have to sell them as a near finished product within no more than 18 months, really, by the time they get here. Like
essentially, to be recruitable that second fall, you need to be towards the tail end of the development curve, at least in a palatable sense to a 4-year school.
Right. And maybe that if we're at a 4-year school, maybe that changes if freshman year he red shirts, we crush weight room, we figure out some mobility, strength, whatever issues. He doesn't even play it. He comes back and he's still a freshman that second year. And now we bought an extra year. Maybe that gives us more time. But when we've got 18 months to get,
you're eventually looking at 23-year-old dude on the mound getting outs. I gotta look at like, hey, by the time he's like 18 and a half, he's got to be able to do something well enough to help us get outs in a game. Yeah, it's a little bit different developmental path. Why is it that we think we can develop velocity?
Mostly our history says we can.
Well, that's true.
There's numerous dudes in our program who have. But I think it goes back to the weight room. If you can get dudes, if you could figure out what they move, where they move well, where they don't move well, and fix it, guys tend to throw harder, right? If you can all of a sudden, if you're just not strong on a single leg or you can't hinge or your T-spine sucks, well, if you start fixing movement issues, it becomes a lot easier to correct the mechanics to make guys throw harder.
We start getting it up.
Yeah. Like more often than not, if a guy can't throw hard, well, he's not in his back leg well, his throwing arm sucks, or doesn't work the way it needs to, and he doesn't have the trunk stability to pull off the movements we need. But all of a sudden, his reverse lunge doubles, his deadlift goes up 85, 100 pounds, chin-ups go from 5 to 15. All of a sudden, you start checking boxes, and it becomes a lot easier for me to go, oh, well, his body moves better now. Let's start making adjustments and the mechanics or whatever it needs to be done.
And it happens. I think the environment matters a ton. We incentivize size to a large degree without ever talking about putting on weight. Guys typically come in and they see the work that we're doing in the weight room and they see the sheer size of dudes. If you can recall, I don't have a spreadsheet in front of me. What was the average size of us across 38 guys this fall?
Like 6'1", 205, 208,
something like that. Yeah, and if I excluded the top end and the bottom end, I think we actually went up to about like 210 or something like that. But so you're in that environment, you're in that weight room. We got 40 guys in the weight room all at the same time. We're doing basic lifts. It becomes pretty quick to see for a kid who's 165 pounds that it ain't going to work. That he doesn't move and can do the same things as the kids that's 195 pounds. I don't ever have to tell him about caloric intake or but like it just kind of happens. And I think that's because we promote the things that need to be promoted and they've got positive effects throughout the program.
It also helps that our dining hall is all you can eat while you're in there.
Oh yeah, no, that's very beneficial. I think velocity plays into that also. If you're on a pitching staff, and I think we had 15 pitchers this year, 14 pitchers or something like that. And almost all the right-handers are upper 80s to low 90s, and some of the right-handers into the mid-90s. You figure out pretty quickly that 81 ain't going to cut it.
No.
That as much as you want to believe you can get the ball to certain spots, and that's probably why you're here, that's why I took you, is because you can, that we need to continue to gain arm strength to be competent on the staff. That's just what kind of needs to happen.
And there's the friendly competition in practice of two guys long tossing next to each other and one guy's 10 yards farther. Yeah. And it's because he throws 91 and I throw 84. Well, let me start trying to catch him.
Right.
And then
And
84 turns into 87 over time because you're constantly chasing somebody.
I don't know that we ever sat a kid down and said, you need to throw harder. But I think what we promote day in and day out allows guys to develop velocity in a safe manner for their own timeline.
Yeah, and it just sort of happens.
Yeah,
in a way.
Because we're not doing run and gun pull downs. Like there's specific plyo sets for different guys. There's separate definitions of long toss for different guys. There's different throwing schedules for different guys. But we're just trying to make them move better, be stronger, and be able to do it more often. And in turn, they tend to throw harder.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
I don't know if I took that same approach and said, I'm just going to recruit velocity, and I focused all those things on a positive command environment, that we would correlate the same way whatsoever.
Or that you wouldn't be trading one for the other.
True.
I think we do a fairly decent job. You and I kind of balance each other in that velocity command curve, because I'm the one hyping them up when they hit a PR on the radar gun.
Yeah.
Then you're the one that's going, yeah, but it ain't over the plate, and I kind of need you to throw it over the plate.
I can't put them in the game. I'm constantly the buzzkill of, it's cool, but he's got to get outs. So we need to balance those two things out.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So moving on, this one's a little bit broader term, and I'll let you run on it a little bit. I think we're looking for alphas. I think we're looking for dudes who can stand on the mound with a good sense of self in kind of who they are and what they do.
Yeah,
Talk about that a little bit.
The guys that don't make the excuse, whether it's cold because we're in northeastern Pennsylvania. There were some 44-degree games.
Yep.
Whether it's we just sat on a bus or a van for 2.5, 3, in some cases 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And have to get up and play. Whether it's umpire screwed me on a call, or it's just I'm not good today, which kind of is the big one, right?
Don't forget the mound sucks. The mound always sucks.
Yeah, the mound sucks. But guys who can just ignore that, and maybe they know they don't have their best stuff, and they can accept it and still find a way to get whatever amount of outs we're asking them to get. Like maybe the best arm's not going to go 7 innings that day. That's fine. Can you grit and grind your way to 15? And we'll figure out the last 6.
Can you get me through 12 really good and we have a conversation?
Can you find a way, or does it just implode in the 2nd inning and now all of a sudden it's a headache to try to – how do we get through today? How do we get through game 2?
Now we're off schedule.
Got another doubleheader in 2 days.
Exactly.
Can you at least be big man on the mound and find a way to get through it?
What we're good at developing is we're good at developing a role for you. I don't care that you closed for your high school team. I don't care. I'm going to find the closer on my team. I'm going to find whose attributes best fit that. I don't necessarily need you to profile as a reliever or a starter. We're going to find where you best fit in there. But I can't teach you to be self-secure. I can't teach you to have that awareness of self and that confidence of self day in and day out. It's why high school stats don't matter, but they do. If you couldn't win games and you gave up a hit an inning and you didn't punch people out and you walked a ton of dudes in high school, I don't care how good the stuff is. Yeah. I just don't.
That tells me that's the red flag of he doesn't handle adversity well.
He can't do it. The prior success is completely indicative of future success. Now, does it translate 1-to-1? No, absolutely not. But it's really hard to take a kid with 0 success and then make them successful at a higher level, especially at the level we want to compete at, which is let's try and win a national title. Let's try and make everybody who plays for us get a Division I scholarship. That's going to be a heavy pressure cooker to teach a kid to find himself in. That's going to be difficult. Yeah. So we're looking for those alpha dogs. We're looking for those dudes who can command a game on the mound and be secure in themselves, even if the variables around them are constantly changing. I think that really matters.
And I think we saw that a few times in the spring with a few of our guys we weren't sure on. Ball goes over the fence. We played on some smaller fields that were little league fields, basically. But ball went over the fence, ball from umpire, right back on the mound, and we're getting back after it.
We get back at it. Yeah, we get back at it. And those kids can pitch for us. We can figure it out. We can ride with those guys. You gave up a 325-foot home run that hooked past the foul pole, and then you throw 5 balls in a row because you're screwed up in the brain. That dude gets one shot. I can't put him in the game. It's junior college baseball. Ball's gonna go over the fence, homie. You're gonna have to learn to deal with it. Let's not walk a guy before it. Yeah. But that's a big deal. And because we're playing so many games, because it's 75 games in a year, because your scrimmages, you're facing dudes who are getting 80% to go to Power 5 schools. If you can't deal with failure and have a sense of self, I don't have time to teach you. I honest to God don't. There's no quote I can laminate from some self-help book. Like there's no YouTube video. There's no amount of mental game process that I can help you get a sense of self if you don't have any to start with already.
Yeah.
I simply don't have the time.
I think we can nurture it. We can develop it some.
Yeah.
But there still needs to be.
I can grow it, but I can't
at the end
start
of
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah. We can't plant the seed. The seed
Not
has to have already been there, and we can water the soil.
Yeah. Because, like, listen, in that first scrimmage, freshman dude, ball going to go over the wall.
Yeah.
Sorry, we led the country in homers. You're going to throw what you think's a glove side fastball, and it's going to go over the wall. Like, it's going to happen. You take another Rawlings Pearl, step back on the mound, and go back to work. That's gonna play much better in my head than the guy who all of a sudden is all out of control.
Yeah, and then he walks the bases loaded, and we got to make a move.
And now I'm looking down the bullpen, making sure somebody's loose to get through a scrimmage. Sense of self is absolutely necessary in somebody that we're trying to recruit.
Yeah.
All right. So third, I want to talk about, we're looking for a projectable body type. We're not necessarily saying you got to be physical, but I think it's that you have to have the ability to be physical.
Yes.
We feel pretty good in being able to make you stronger, but there are certain body types and there's certain physical statues as a guy who's 18 years old that I can't take into the program.
Yeah.
What do you see in that regard?
You can't recruit me. You can't recruit 5'6", 160.
No, unless he's special. Unless something special is going on.
There's probably not a whole lot more in me than the low 80s I ever got to.
Sure.
But there is maybe something to the wiry 6'2" kid who's got the whippy arm, but it's 170 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah. And I think that's important to talk about. Like, all 81s aren't made the same.
Yeah.
Like there's a physical appearance of the arm and the cleanliness of the stroke combined with how the body makeup is that makes the tinglies go off on the back of my neck and say, hey, that guy 2 years from now can be special. There's a different kid whose arm kind of drags through the zone or is kind of stabby on the backside who, is the same 6'1", 165, but doesn't have the same amount of meat on the bone as some other kids that maybe are more athletic.
Nor does it look like they're close.
Right.
Like there's some underdeveloped, uncoordinated 6'4" kids, but it looks like it's close. They just need some strength, not the all arms flailing all over the place guy that it just looks like it's a mess and it's going to be like, well, that's just a headache we don't want to deal with. Yeah.
And then we're looking at, maybe it's your ability to spin the baseball hard. Maybe you throw 82, but you spin it 77.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, we're doing some efficient things in there. Let's let's make this pop. Some of the kids that I've offered the best scholarships to have been kids that like, hey, I saw in the mid to upper 80s, but like the breaking ball tells me it's 92, 93 and it's coming. Like let's get on that kid. Let's get him in a good weight program and structured, and it's going to pop.
Yeah.
I think that's important to understand, that you need to take a quality assessment of yourself and not just the raw velocity number or not just the raw high school stats of what you're doing. They matter, but like the entire physical makeup of you and attribute list really kind of goes into our brain as to what we're looking for out of somebody that can get the most out of our program.
Yeah, and it's not exactly fair, but we're picking on the short kids. By and large, they're more likely to physically tap out before the bigger, longer athletes are. It's just if I've only got that amount of time, and we do have no restrictions, I can spend as much time as possible. And I'm picking the cards that I've got the best shot with. The ones that are the most percentage of success. And on the recruiting side, we don't have all the time in the world. It's one visit, it's a few phone calls.
Yeah.
But there's no, I'm standing with you in the cage and seeing how you work 5 or 6 times. Maybe I see you throw once at a showcase game. I'm looking at PBR or perfect game video, and we're just kind of making an assessment and hoping we're right.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and I think that's one of the interesting parts for us. I think the other side of it is we do a decent amount of bounce outs, guys who are at Division I schools that need a safe landing that can get back to another place. I always take those guys with a grain of salt because having been a Division I coach and been in that world, I think if you're a really good arm, they don't really let you go. They do everything they can to keep you.
Nobody ever has enough pitching.
Yeah. So like there's a wart somewhere in what you're doing if you bounced out of XYZ school. And it's up to me to decide whether that wart or that deficiency is something that we can absorb into our program. Maybe that wart or deficiency doesn't matter as much at the junior college level as it did at the Division I level. Maybe that wart is simply mental, and we got to get you back in appropriate age group style kids and experience some success. But we've got to kind of dig through the layers of that onion to figure out, why is that kid not at the Power 5 school that 18 months ago gave him 55%?
Yeah, and that's kind of the struggle we run into.
It just is what it is. But all those things kind of pile into each other. It's got to be an individual process for everybody. But they look kind of like how they look, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The ones that develop on the timeline we're looking for kind of look a certain way before we ever get them in the door.
Yeah, and generally it's the bigger, more physical kid.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think we won a handful of games this year walking up to the field, and teams looked at us and went, "Oh, they're big, they strong."
We got off the bus 1-0 a lot of times.
Yeah,
there's you know what you're getting into when we start taking BP or we start running around on the field. That matters to me, and any team that I coach is going to be that way. We're gonna win getting off the bus. We're gonna win the national anthem. We're gonna win pregame, and then we're gonna win the game. Because you know who we are. We look good in a uniform. Lastly, let's talk about, we're looking for a secondary pitch. I don't think guys survive at any level if they're fastball only.
Unless it's a special fastball.
Yeah, unless it's special. I don't have a super preference on what's the secondary pitch, because if you got a Snapdragon slider, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm in. But I think I tend to defer on. I prefer guys to come ready-made with a changeup as opposed to guys ready-made with a slider or a curveball.
Yeah, I would agree. Given our experience this year, it's not something we were very successful at teaching. I think we look at the 3 or 4 dudes with the best changeups on our team. They came in with it. We didn't teach it. They kind of had it, and it was like, oh, that's awesome. And then it was, for us, it was giving them the breaking ball, the cutter, slider, whatever. But to me, I always look for, can you at least spin the ball some way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
Whether that's efficient or effective at the level you're at or not, can you at least spin it well in some way?
Can you spin it?
Maybe it's that crappy, loopy high school breaking ball that moves a ton, but what if we can flatten it out?
Yeah.
Or what if we shift the axis, or what if we cut it down?
We add intent to it.
But if you can spin it well, that's a skill that sometimes, really, I don't even know that we can teach yet. If we can, we don't know how, at least not efficiently. But a guy who can spin it well, I can teach you how to spin it more effectively or more efficiently. I don't know that we can do that with the changeup better.
Yeah, I don't. I think we can all identify the breaking ball that's spinning wrong and try and adjust it the right way. We've got the pitch logic, we got high speed video. We'll Sharpie up a ball and we'll figure it out. But if they can't spin the ball at all, it's really hard to teach them it.
Yeah.
On the same token, though, if they don't have feel for a changeup when they walk in day one, I don't know that I'm teaching it to them.
No, and that's something we tried with 3 or 4 of our guys this year, and it never seemed to click.
Not to be a plus pitch. Maybe we can take it from unusable to usable, but I don't know that we can take it to plus. I think they got to walk in the door with a little bit of feel on that.
Yeah,
and that's one of the hurdles we've got to be honest about when we're kind of identifying who can come into our program and who we can do the best by. I think a coach is lying to a kid if he can't tell you what he doesn't do well. Or he's insecure in some way. Yeah, if we were on the offensive side, I like to recruit speed because, I don't know that I'm awesome at teaching it. I think, I wasn't very fast myself. I understand base running theory, and I understand, how we're going to utilize space on the bases and how we're going to weaponize speed. I don't know that day in, day out I'm running a program that makes a bunch of 7-1 guys 6-6s. So I recruit it. I think you have to be that same side on the pitching. You have to say, hey, I'm not great at teaching changeups, so let's get right-handers with changeups. Let's get left-handers with changeups. But I am decent at adjusting a breaking ball to be more competent. That's something that you and I need to talk about constantly, about which kid we take. Because it's not we're not out there selling the program, convincing kids to come. We're really kind of in a position where we can be selective with who we want, who we reach out to, and the proof's in the pudding. Like if you pitch innings for us, chances are you're going to go to a school that didn't offer you previously. You're going to get to some place. We did 13 Division I guys last year. I think we do 12 or 13 this year, and they're getting an average of 55 to 60%. We're sending guys to places to go play. That's in part because we're really honest through this process of what we can develop and what we can't, and what kind of fits our team.
And other coaches might be different. They may look at us and go, I don't know how the hell they're getting velocity out of kids, but we've got dudes who throw strikes more often. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
then recruit that. Recruit your 90 to 92 arm and teach them how to throw it over the plate. Like, that's find your strength. And as a high school or a JUCO recruit, that's what you need to be asking the kids and go, okay, I suck at XYZ. If I want to play at that level or a level higher, that coach needs to align with what I do well and don't, and where can he fill in the gaps?
For sure. I mean, you say you play MLB The Show or something, you hire the coaches, they got different attributes. Like if we can be honest about that in a video game, we should be able to be honest about it in real life, in that we have different specialties. And I'm in a decent spot where I can sit back in my chair as the head coach and say, I'm going to hire assistants to help make up for some of the deficiencies in my knowledge base, for some of the deficiencies in my ability base in player development. And then I'm going to hone that in even more by being super specific in who we recruit into the program. I think everybody wants to be data driven, or everybody wants to be player development focused. I think the first step in being really good at that is getting guys that fit what you do well. If you're not doing that, I don't care how much data you collect or how much focus you have on player development, you're going to fail at a decent amount.
Yeah. Especially if you're trying to shift one or other to fit what you already do and confirm your thoughts.
Yeah. Now
I don't know how you're getting better with it.
Now we're not running a system, now we just got to hammer and square pegs into round holes all the time. And I think if we can't have those honest conversations about the program and about each other while sitting in the office or on a Zoom call or whatever, it's at the detriment of the roster as a whole. It's something that we need to constantly kind of talk about and sift through, because not everything fits what we do.
No.
Okay. I think that about covers it for now. Maybe later this week, or today's Friday, so maybe early next week, we hit up another subject, kind of bounce it back and forth.
I like it.
Good deal. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for having me.